unveiling of NNPC Limited would trigger a commercially driven and dynamic Balogun. If you are ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. Let's begin with the crisis in the university system in Nigeria. All is now set for the planned nationwide protests by the organized labor in the country. Barring any last-minute intervention by the federal government, the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, and the Trade Union Congress, TUC, are forging ahead with their two-day national protest beginning from Tuesday in solidarity with striking university workers. NLC President Ayuba Waba insisted that the labor and the Nigerians have the right to protest. Jide, the federal government of Nigeria, actually, President Muhammadu Buhari gave a kind of ultimatum to the Minister of Education that in 2 weeks.
But they denied, they said it wasn't an ultimatum.
So whatever it is.
We will have been happy for the president to give an ultimatum to a minister that is behaving like an absentee minister. But again, we had, oh, it's not an ultimatum.
Okay. But Saturday last year, when the governors went to go and visit President Muhammadu Buhari, this year, sorry, it's just this last Saturday, the president expressed worry about the continued strike. So that means everybody. Now, Blind Mohammed is saying that the Nigerian Labour Congress, that they don't have any dispute with the Nigerian Labour Congress. That's why should Nigerian Labour Congress join this thing with NLC, ASU?
Is also not, the NLC is the globally recognized umbrella body of labor in our country. It is the NLC that represents us at Geneva, at the ILO conventions and the rest of them. So that is the apex body that represents Nigerian workers.
Yeah. So
when you are negotiating for minimum wage, it is labor represented by NLC that you negotiate with. You are not negotiating with TUC. You are not negotiating separately with NOPENG. It is labor, NLC. So you cannot say that, oh, it is ASU that we have problem with. Dispute with. Of course, ASU is part of labor, is part of NLC. There are so many unions affiliated to the NLC and the TUC. But the NLC is the apex body, the apex body. So for that reason, you cannot say that you are not negotiating with, you are negotiating with labor. So labor has every right, every reason in the world to go ahead and ensure that this needless strike comes to an end. Everybody wants this strike to come to an end. The people in government must do whatever it takes for it to come to an end. It's a national disgrace. If they don't see it as such, I see it as a national disgrace. It's unparalleled. 5 months since February 18 or so, or February 14, they've been on this strike, and we've not done anything about it. So this may even be just the beginning. There may be other measures that labor may find worthy to take. If labor itself is alive to its responsibilities, they should be thinking of what to do next after the nationwide street protest. They should be thinking of what to do. And I don't think any minister has the power to stop labor from protesting. It's constitutionally guaranteed.
Now, do you think they will now take ASU more serious if the Nigerian Labour Congress should ground, their operations and in solidarity strike with ASU?
Well, actually, as far as I'm concerned, ASU is even coming, NLC is coming in a little bit late, because I expect them to have done this about 3 months ago, when it was obvious that neither the Minister of Labour or the Minister of any interest in solving this problem. And the reality we face as a country, because we keep complaining about the travesty of what happened to our institution, and this is what is killing it. I think what we need to do right now, what Labour needs to do right now, is not only to do the two-day protest, is also embark on a warning strike maybe that will ginger up the minister or the president or whoever is in charge of this that refuse to do the needful to solve the problem of our children. Because we must remember that NLC has the constitutional power to hold the country to ransom. And no amount of blackmail will work to stop them from doing what they have the power to do. So what I think NLC should do, apart from the 2-day warning protest, is also do another 2-day warning strike. Then go on a full-blown strike. If the country is grounded, maybe somebody somewhere will remove the toothpick from his mouth and do the needful.
And do what's right. We just can't continue.
We can't go on like this.
I know some unions that if they were the ones on strike, even after 24 hours, they will listen to them.
Yeah.
They won't. There are some that they won't even allow them to execute the plan.
Nupen cannot say they want to go on strike
or
Pengassin.
You can imagine if they were to shut Nigeria's export terminal, for example.
Just for 2
all
hours.
our export terminals, we say, okay, those major export terminals, we are going to shut them. When you shut them, to then come back and reopen, it takes time. A massive length of time. So nobody wants to even allow that to happen. Then the loss in terms of what you lose,
all right,
the money is huge.
Okay, more trouble continues to assault us as a country over the kidnapped passengers of Abuja-Kaduna train that was attacked on the 28th of March. A troubling video emerged on the social media showing the terrorists maltreating the remaining victims in captivity. They vowed to kill or sell them off as slaves and also threatened to abduct President Muhammadu Buhari and the governor of Kaduna State, Nasiru El-Rufai, if ransom is not paid for their release. Meanwhile, families of the victims have staged a protest in Abuja where they appealed to the president to do all that is required to rescue them. One of the before they are killed, let's hear from some of them.
For that love that we had for you before we voted you in, for you to look at us with mercy. We are like your children. I beg you, Baba Buhari, to help release our loved ones. These victims are asking for a huge amount of money.
We are here to tell the government that the lives of all our relatives in the bush there with the kidnappers the thing is that as we speak, they have been flogged, they have been macheted, they have been given all sorts of punishment as we speak. And they have threatened to eliminate them, to kill them. At a point, some of those that can gather money have gathered money and got their loved one released. Even it is now becoming difficult to even get money to release them.
As in, we can't stage a kind of operation. Oh, we can't say military should go and bombard that place because of the collateral damage. Now, I've never seen a situation whereby there's a kind of plan B to stage a military operation or anything that, yes, there might be collateral damages, but these terrorists are taking, the country for granted. After abducting these people, collecting ransom from some people, and you now have to, bring out a video to work on our psyche, and you're beating them like kids.
And the kind of money you're asking for is not easy to raise.
It's not reasonable.
I know that they've been contacting some families, and some friends have been gathering money for some individuals. Even right here in Lagos, one of those abductees, people are raising money just to get to that threshold of 100 million. Is it easy to raise 100 million in today's Nigeria?
Where?
A country terribly pauperized.
Where?
People are pauperized in our country. You are now saying that if you don't get 100 million on each person, that you are not going to release them. And the government has said it will no longer pay ransom. In the past, they were paying this ransom and they will come out and lie to us that they never paid. Now, those guys can't explain why government has stopped paying. This is what is happening. When you commit yourself to lying to the people, after a point, the blowback for those lies becomes very bad. Those guys can't understand why you paid in the past and you don't want to pay now. And you used to pay tons of cash in the past, foreign currency.
That's what encouraged them. That's why the business is booming. That's why, you know, it's a lucrative sector.
At a point where you are supposed to crush these guys, you are paying ransom, hefty ransom, in foreign currency, euros. Now, their mouth, as Yoruba will say, their mouths have been widened.
There's no business you can do in Nigeria that you can get return from your investment.
With minimum.
You are looking at people with mouth like the hippopotamus. You know? Because his mouth can turn in 360 degrees. The most dangerous animal in the continent of Africa. It kills more human beings than any other animal.
The strongest jaws.
So, now, what do you do? Watching, you know, it's not the first time they were flogging those students. Those students of the forestry school in Kaduna, they flogged them too. But the flogging of this one was a lot worse than that time.
Just
to show that the people in whose care, in inverted commas, these guys are greater beasts than those ones that kidnapped those forestry students. Boko Haram terrorists are now operating fully in the north central, some parts of northwest as well. We are seeing this is the evidence because they are the ones who are this brutal. So what do you then do? Look at that woman talking to the president and saying, "We love you, we voted for you," and she was shedding tears, spontaneous tears, because they are watching their people being maltreated. This is
after many
rainy season are setting in the north. This is they put them in the open. Since March 28th, my birthday, they've been there. In the open, there's nowhere that they sleep. They sleep in the open. When the rains come, the rains fall on top of them. Men and women.
At night, mosquitoes.
Old people, kids. Look at this old woman.
Some of them will be on medication.
Look at this old woman. Old woman, a woman already in her 80s.
What do you want to do?
So we said, look, it's always difficult to secure the release of these people through military means once they've taken them. And we said, make sure that it doesn't happen. Maybe that is why now they've decided that, okay, the FGC, Kwali, because these bandits attacked 2 communities in the Kwali area. Now we've quickly locked up the FGC.
Yeah.
Which was what we didn't do in Kebbi State. Bringing this Sabo Yauri. We didn't do it, or bringing Yauri. We didn't do it. And we were warned. We wanted them to finish their exam. And then they kidnapped them. When they tell you they are going to sell people as slaves, don't dismiss it. Shekau threatened at that time that I will marry these Chibok girls to my fighters. I will sell some of them. That's what has happened. Those girls were eventually married off to his commanders. And they were put in the family way. 16-year-old girls.
They are all mothers.
Yes, they are mothers. You see some of them, they are looking like 70-year-olds.
DKB, now it shows the government is so helpless, and it shows the level of, you know, at which we've descended when it comes to the ability to secure lives and properties, our people. Because I don't know what kind of signal this is sending to Nigerians. Even abroad, they look at us that we are jokers.
Yeah.
What is wrong here?
Somebody called me from one of these countries and said, when I was telling him that because of collateral damage, he said, but have they been isolated? He said, is there any sign that there was a camp they had that had been captured, that they moved on to another camp? And we point to the map where exactly they are. He said, this is not rocket science. Fine, you don't want collateral damage, but you must be able to tell Nigerians, isolate where they are on the map and say they are between Kauri and Breaking Cabo. This is where they are. 30-kilometer radius, 20-kilometer radius. It doesn't mean you attack them, but everybody will know you are on top of the game. But wasn't use it as an excuse. And the guy couldn't understand it.
No, if you announce where they are.
No, not announce. Just know where they are. He said because some of these people have doctors and treat them. As you know, somebody gave
supplies.
birth. People give them food. They survive them with all this stuff. When we had problems at the border between Oyo and Ogun, and the police had to move in, what they did was to make sure they make sure that these people that supply them through motorcycles were cut off. And once that is done, that was the end of the kidnapping nonsense along that route. Because once you cut their supply off, you cut off their bloodline. Because no matter how tough they are, without food, without medicine, without supplies,
Not even
they can't do
petrol.
anything. It's that bad. And the people are saying, what exactly is it? Because they do not believe that this is not staged. Because they tell you normally, all over the world, they may not go in, but they will tell you exactly to the maybe 20, 30 kilometer radius where exactly this is happening. Doesn't mean you will attack them, but everybody will know.
But you see, there is a danger in that. Nigerians don't need to know where
At
they
the
are.
highest level, they don't know. You know, you and I talk
No,
to
they
people at
know.
the highest level.
They know. They just chose not to go there.
And then they also not to
They
look
know.
them there.
They know.
So what can we
I'm
do?
convinced that, in fact, there are individuals who know exactly where they are.
What
So
are
is
we
it
waiting
that
for?
we are so powerless? There are no options. That have you exhausted all the options to rescue these people?
The fear of collateral damage makes them to think twice about a rescue. Since the failed American rescue operation in Iran, people have been very careful in dealing with terrorists when they have people like this.
Hostages.
Because at the end of the day, a lot of people will die. And people will now say, why did you decide to use military action? So the best thing to do, don't even let this thing happen. Hearing that, okay, you got security report, this and that, you didn't know where exactly they were going to strike, all of that nonsense. It has to stop. I remember that this train, in the past, they used helicopters to even monitor the movement of the trains. But we suddenly said, okay, no, there's no need. Now, we felt, okay, it was not sustainable. What have we gained now?
Okay.
Look at how many lives have been put in danger because of this.
All right. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC, has turned a new leaf by becoming a limited liability company. And citizens expect a turnaround in the oil and gas industry in the country. While some stakeholders cast doubts over whether the development can change the narrative in the oil and gas sector, other experts express confidence that unveiling of NNPC Limited will trigger a commercially driven and dynamic global energy company. Wow, new NNPC private company is no longer, we wish it's not going to be like the NNPC that we used to know. That it will be audited for years, that a company just running, nobody to call it the question, the accountability was far from that NNPC. Now this is a corporate organization, now going to be run like a corporate organization. And I'm sure, and I hope that Nigerian government will allow it to function that way.
That is what we want to see. We've seen it done in other countries. You turn your major oil company into a public-private company. We've seen Petrobras. In fact, it was so heavily subscribed when they decided to offer their shares to the public. It was so heavily, I think it broke the world record at that time in terms of the level of subscription. I believe that it will not put an end to corruption, because you can't say that Petrobras has totally defeated corruption. But in terms of the way the place will be run, you are going to experience so much improvement. No doubt about it. Look at the Nigerian liquefied natural gas. See the money that we are making from it.
Yes.
Even the 3 tiers of government, every year
they run it privately and
they share the proceeds. Yes. They share the proceeds among the 3 tiers of government, and it's usually impressive. You know, that's also an example of a well-run company. I believe that by the time the PIA is fully operational, that we will have the oil corporation of our dream. This is just the beginning.
That corporation is something that if we run it very well, you know, the country, we are going to get return for our investment as a country.
Well, I'm a pessimist when it comes to converting national assets to private companies. The experience of the electricity companies have taught me to be not to be as optimistic as some others are within because the same people that were running NNPC are also going to run NNPC Limited. So it's just a change of cap from Babariga to senator. Nothing has really changed in terms of corporate governance, in terms of the personnel. So he just left office on Friday as a member of NNPC and returned on Monday as a member of NNPC Limited. We're going to take more than a cosmetic change of name or even consumer-backed privacy to really change the way we've been doing business for the last 60 years.
Okay. Now, joining us for more discussion on this issue is the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Communication, Ajuri Ngilale. Thank you for joining us, Ajuri.
Thank you very much for having me. Good evening, distinguished colleagues and viewers.
Ajuri, what is going to change in NNPC? Now, GKB has expressed his pessimism that, Mele Kyari on Friday, he was the MD of NNPC. By Monday, he's resuming as the new MD of this new company. So tell us those things that will change significantly about NNPC Limited.
Tell us why we should be excited about the change that has happened.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Let me start by saying that the history of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation is well known to Nigerians. And so I would be a bit naive to expect that Nigerians would not be a bit cynical or a bit concerned about the prospects of the corporation moving forward based on the decades-long history of graft and mismanagement and all of the things that all of us are very familiar with. So let me be very clear about what the differences are and how it works. First and foremost, we all know that it has transited from being a public corporation to now being a limited liability company. This is important because as a limited liability company, it's subject to the mandates of the Company and Allied Matters Act, CAMA 2020, which was, of course, signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari in 2020 after about 30 years of non-movement on the amendment of the original CAMA 1990. Now, one of the key mandates of the CAMA that the NNPC Limited is now subjected to fully, like every other company in the country, is there are now mandatory audits conducted by independent auditors of all of the books every single financial year. This was something that the NNPC was not subjected to by law before. It is now subjected to comply with that law today. That's one. Secondly, the governance structure is totally different. So before now, you would recall that anything that the NNPC wanted to do in terms of engaging in joint ventures, wanting to make investments, whether it's upstream, midstream, or downstream, that they would have to basically haggle with the National Assembly. And we all know the kind of give and take in the National Assembly over the last several decades. A lot gets diverted, a lot gets lost, and your objectives are usually not met when you have to go through that haggling process with the National Assembly. That is the historical fact in terms of the realities of our country. What has now happened is that instead of having to go to the Federal Executive Council through the Minister of Petroleum Resources, right, the topmost decision-making body of the new NNPC Limited is now the board of NNPC Limited. It is no longer the Federal Executive Council. It is no longer requiring an engagement with the National Assembly to appropriate its budget, to determine which projects it wants to engage in and all of that.
Actually,
they can now take those decisions independently within the...
Let me hold you on there, Ajuri. We'll take this break, Ajuri. Let's just go on this break. When we come back, we'll talk more.
Showing up in style. inspires great confidence. IVM G5T appeals to class.
Time is of the essence. With IVM Kappa, business and meetings are always on the go.
Fun time with the family. Thank you to IVM Kingdom. IVM Kara is always stealing the show. Isn't she beautiful? Influence defines a great leader. IVM Seriki is Africa's commute king. Strong, reliable, and durable. With the concept of regionalization, Innocent Vehicle is committed to satisfying its customers with producing their everyday dream cars.
IVM, pride of African roots.
Good afternoon, Oga. Now you be the landlord?
Yes, Nami.
Oga landlord, me go need 1 room for this your house, so.
Okay, sure you get work where you do.
Yes, I be nurse.
You know go they owe me be that now.
Now how much be your rent, safe?
Not just 90,000 naira. Wait, this girl, where you come from, Seth?
Oga, I come from Akamata.
Akamata? No talk am again. My spirit and Akamata people no they ever join.
Oga, wetin happen now?
Come over for my compound. Na so baba thing na people sabi do for that Akamata. Come over here.
Haba, Papa, wetin this innocent girl do you now? Now people like you, they spoil Nigeria, Papa.
I think you don't see am now. My people, they talk, say jollof rice, we dey for bottom pot today. Go dey top of cooler tomorrow. As I take need you now, so you self need me. Because now one mama we get, we be Nigeria. Make we love ourselves. Because now only together we go fit make our country better for us and our children them. One heart plus one love equals better Nigeria. Now the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the UK government, they bring in this message.
The University of Medical Sciences, UNIMED, in Ondo City, Ondo State, is not just the first specialized medical and health sciences university in Nigeria.
It is the best ground for training in the health professions and medical sciences with outstanding products.
I had to enroll at another institution before coming to UNIMED, and I can tell you, in terms of facility, affordable cost, uninterrupted academic calendar, University of Medical Sciences blew my mind.
In just 7 years of its founding, the National Universities Commission, NUC, ranks UNIMED best among medical and health sciences university in Nigeria, 4th best state university, and 19th overall best in Nigeria in 2021. UNIMED, proudly Nigeria's first specialized medical and health sciences university.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Journalist Hangout. In case you're just joining us, and I see have Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Gani Kaide Balogun in the studio. And we've been talking with the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Communication, Mr. Ajuri Ngilali. Ajuri, you were telling us what is going to change significantly about this company.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So just to round up the last point, so the governance structure has changed. They're now having the independent power, the independent ability to make decisions as it relates to finance, as it relates to investments, as it relates to project prioritization, and they're able to do it with much more agility and much more speed because they're no longer tied down by the kind of political and bureaucratic interference that it was subjected to as a public corporation when you're dealing with budget politics in the National Assembly, and of course having to go through the kind of bureaucratic rigmarole of operating within the ambit of the Federal Executive Council. So all of that has now been bypassed. In addition to that, other public sector regulations, such as the Treasury Single Account, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, as well as the Public Procurement Act, no longer apply to the functioning and operating dynamics of the new NNPC Limited. It is essentially truly operating as an independent private enterprise, as a limited liability company, now not subjected to some of those regulations, which again can slow down and frustrate a lot of what you want to do when you want to take quick investment decisions. Remember that the NNPC Limited is now a company operating in a global commercial space where they're competing against oil companies from Angola, you name it, countries across Africa, countries across the world for various investment opportunities, not just in Nigeria, but also across the continent and eventually around the world. In order to compete effectively, you need to be able to go from A to Z very quickly. You need to make quick decisions and have the finances ready to be able to execute on those decisions.
Okay.
What we have now, based on the new adjustment, is that part of the transition, in addition to all that I've already mentioned, is two special purpose vehicles have been set up by the Petroleum Industry Act. And we should give credit to the 9th National Assembly under the leadership of Senate President Ahmad Lawan, showing the political will to actually give NNPC this independence, and then, of course, President Muhammadu Buhari for signing it into law. These two special purpose vehicles are the Ministry of Finance Incorporated and the Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated. They essentially represent these vehicles that will hold the shares or the interests of the federal government of Nigeria within those two new special purpose vehicles. The NNPC Limited will operate separate, and they will retain 20% of all of the profit earnings on oil and gas revenues, so that they can use those retained 20% earnings to be able to now make further investments in the upstream, midstream, and downstream without recourse to public funds, without recourse to all of the other elements of bureaucratic and political interference that I've mentioned. So Nigerians can actually expect that.
Now, we see Petrobras from Brazil, we see Petronas from Norway embark on big investments across the world. Are we going to see the Nigerian oil behemoth, the NNPC, doing such big investments beyond the borders of our country?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Let's start first, though. Charity begins at home, as it is said. So you want to make sure that you've maximized the opportunities domestically, even as you're planning the international investments. Let's start from the fact that, and I'll give you a very clear example. In the downstream, the new group CEO, of course, the former GMD, Mele Kolokiari, at the event where the president unveiled the new NNPC Limited, made the announcement that in the downstream component of the company, they are getting ready to establish 1,000 additional retail filling stations nationwide, NNPC retail filling stations. Today, the NNPC currently has a little over 500 retail filling stations nationwide. The first one was established in 2002. That is 20 years ago. We've done 500 in 20 years. Now, because of the new freedom that has been given to the NNPC Limited and the resources that they now have available to themselves to make these decisions, the group CEO now announced to Nigerians that within the next 6 months, there's going to be an additional establishment of an additional 1,000 new retail filling stations. 1,000 in 6 months versus 500 in 20 years. That's the difference in speed in terms of the kinds of investments you can make under the new arrangement as against the old arrangement. In addition to that, you have opportunities, obviously, in refining. I think it's really critical to mention, to update Nigerians using this platform now, where we are in terms of the refinery rehabilitation project, the $1.5 billion refinery rehabilitation project in Port Harcourt. You essentially have two legs of the old refinery. The first one was constructed in 1965, which processed or refined 60,000 barrels per day capacity of petroleum products. Then you now had the 1989 addition of 150,000 barrels per day, making 210,000 barrels per day in Port Harcourt refinery. Now, of course, with the $1.5 billion rejuvenation project, we're bringing it back to 90% capacity within the year 2023. How this is going to work is from March 2021, we started the reconstruction. It's ongoing. By March 2023, that is the first quarter of next year, within the life of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, we're going to bring on 90% of the original 60,000 barrels per day capacity, meaning that we will actually be refining up to about 54,000 barrels per day. in March 2023, then by December 2023, we would have now had the 90% of the total 210,000 barrels per day because of the investments made by Mr. President with the Port Harcourt Refinery rehabilitation. So that's about 189,000 out of 210,000 barrels per day that Nigerians can look forward to in 2023 by December ending 2023. In addition, of course, to the private investments. Dangote Refinery, my brother, everybody, of course, talks about Dangote Refinery also coming on stream in the first quarter of 2023. But very few people are talking about the fact that the NNPC Limited has already paid out over $1 billion to buy stake in the Dangote Refinery of up to 20%. We're almost completing the payments for the 20% stake. We know that what we paid for that stake is going to be very, very small compared to the massive revenues that are going to come to the Federation through that 20% stake that we now have in Dangote Refinery. The last point I'll make on refining is, in addition to that, we just announced, the federal government just announced through of course, the NNPC Limited, that there is the establishment of a new 100,000 barrels per day refinery that's being co-located at the Port Harcourt Refinery, separate from the 210,000 barrels per day that the federal government owns, that the NNPC Limited owns. We now have a private company called African Petroleum constructing a 100,000 barrels per day refinery in that same complex in conjunction with the old one. And we are currently purchasing 10% of ownership stake in that new 100,000 barrel per day refinery in Port Harcourt. The point here is that we are making very strategic investments, even in private investments coming in to the upstream, downstream, and midstream projects in the country. Not to talk of deep
let
offshore,
me ask you this question before I allow you go.
Inland, onshore projects, etc. So there's so much going on.
Ajuri, do you have evidence that the repairs of the refineries have begun?
Oh, absolutely, my brother. In fact, ironically, if you watched a competitor station last night, we actually aired a documentary on another station, 7:30 last night,
so our viewers
where we went to Port Harcourt Refinery and we actually did a full audit of the work that is going on. This is not the usual turnaround maintenance that we are used to in this country, where government pays out billions of dollars to somebody not to do anything. What we have here now is a P4R arrangement, payment for results. How it works is that we pay the contractor on the basis of the work that they have verifiably done. Not only that, my brother, President Muhammadu Buhari intentionally brought a third party so that there would be oversight. So we got the Afrexim Bank involved, an internationally credible financier, basically gave them the business case, brought an international contractor that has been building refineries on 5 different continents from Italy, Mer Technimont, very credible company. They now agreed on the basis of that business case that we made to them to now be part of the financing arrangement. So we have more than just NNPC's eyes on this. Afrexim Bank is interested, so we're going to make sure this gets done.
I want to thank you, Ajuri Gilale. I'm sure the people that employed Ajuri, they will be proud of him because he's doing everything he has. Yes, they're getting value for their money. Congratulations, and that's quite good. But when you listen to Ajuri, you will think all is well with that sector.
No,
is it not? But I feel pained that we have to wait to have stake
that's not true.
in Dangote's refinery.
That's not true.
To have to buy a stake in Dangote refinery.
We're not saying that we have arrived, though.
Huh?
What we are saying is that we have made verifiable progress in the right direction.
You are doing well.
You are doing well, Julie.
You are doing well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Wow.
Well,
since we got there in 2000 and this thing, we didn't build our own refinery. We had to wait for Dangote to buy that stake, by 20%, and we are gloating over it. That we have 20% stake in Dangote.
We didn't, and we promised to build new ones.
And
during that same period, Angola built new refinery. During that same period, through what this build, operate and transfer model.
Yes, yes.
So at the end of the day, it becomes your own. belongs to the state.
Also, we are still talking about refineries.
We've seen Saudi Arabia build new refineries.
So old refineries now, we are doing turnaround maintenance and we are still
it never ends.
This is unique now.
What he said is that we are taking part of the premises and putting up smaller fraction of what is not working. When people saw that baby, we give the benefit of the doubt.
The bright side, there's always a bright side. Yes, so this weekend, very happy. Yes, at the time that there's a national gloom, a shining hope of our greatness was reawakening in faraway Oregon, United States of America, at the just concluded World Athletic Championship. Nigeria's top hurdler, Tobi Amusan, shone like a million star. Amusan won the country's first gold medal in the championship. Let's share the moment with you.
Tobi Amusan has broken the world record already today. I wonder if she gets a second check for $100,000 if she breaks it again. First and foremost, Amusan now beginning to come through. So too is Anderson. Tobi Amusan, look at the clock. I cannot believe it. She's done it again. 2 world records in one night. And she makes history by becoming Nigeria's first world champion. What a way to do it. What a stage on which to discover sporting rest of time. And tonight, she's done both.
That is a massive world record. Amusan is in green. Camacho Quinn second from the left. The Olympic champion's been left a little bit at the start by Armstrong. Amusan now beginning to come through. So too is Anderson. Tobi Amusan, look at the clock. I cannot believe it. Tobi.
At least this is refreshing.
It's in a season of gloom.
Oh, something to just
something to make us extremely happy.
That particular clip, I saw it this morning and I watched it over and over again. I saw the way she won that 100 meters hurdle, and I looked at it and I remember Usain Bolt when he won in that World Athletic Championship when he did 9.64 at that time, and over and over again, it took this woman consistency, a lot of things, did it?
Yes, she's had to work hard to get to where she is. She started as a 100 meters runner. At a point, she was dropped, on the eve of a championship, and somebody advised her to move to hurdling. And that's what she's done. Her school in America first rejected her because at times she was doing 14 seconds, and they felt, look, this is too slow. But by the time she began to do it just 13 seconds and the rest, and she broke Gloria Aloze's 23-year-old record. Then they began to take note of her. She said suddenly the school started calling her. They almost killed her with calls that, look, this is the time to come and all that. That's the school in the U.S. So this is someone who has really worked hard to be where she is, and I'm sure that back in her school, Our Lady of Apostle Secondary School, Jebode, they'll be very proud that they produced an athlete, a world-class athlete. Nigeria had never won gold in the World Athletics Championship. Never. So to see our national anthem being played on such a big stage is something of tremendous pride. And to see even white people,
tears of joy.
Even white people, to see white people singing Kiss Daniels'
they were playing it and
massive hits, because that is the song of the moment.
When she got there, she was shaking people.
Yes, they were saying Tobi and they were singing this, oh, lo. That quickly reminded her that, look, these guys, they follow Nigeria, they follow our music. Our musicians they are big ambassadors of our country, and Tobi too. I hope that we will be able to hold on to people like Toby.
The good thing
so that
there,
they can win more laurels.
The good thing there is that we have a lot of Toby emotion, you know, in this country, waiting to be discovered.
Yeah.
They are just all over Jegule, everywhere, but they don't have the right, you know, environments to, you know, to achieve this.
Well, this is what the Americans would call a diamond in the rough. That's something you think is totally bad, something will come out and shine like a million stars. As you said, we have the raw materials. We just don't have the way to make them finished products yet. That's why some of our best throughout our history, the Ebony case, the Daily Umos,
they leave the country. Some of them will go, and if you go to Olympics, you will see most of these people, they are now you know, citizens of other countries.
Because there was a time that all the Nigerian University Games used to produce a lot of things of this nature. That one is that. Nigeria Protective Games used to bring forth many athletes.
Nuga.
That is gone.
Wahoog.
Now we are more interested in other stuff and things that make us happy. Today is a happy day in Nigeria because some people are still queuing up for fuel. Some people, the price of bread has gone up by 100%. Things are really, really bad. So we need things like this to remind us of who we really are, champions.
If you go to
now
the
we can
national stadium today, we have a lot of these athletes that they train every day and they are waiting for just this opportunity.
Yes, and I think some of what we used to do in the past, we don't do them anymore. We need to do them. They are our athletics clubs.
Yes.
Clubs, so
yeah, okay.
just like we had football clubs, we used to have athletics clubs contesting against one another. In fact, I remember Hamid Adio.
Yeah.
Hamid Adio, who used to be, I mean, one of the best 100 meters runners in Nigerian history. He came from an athletics club in Lagos and came to compete on the tartan tracks of the Ilorin Mini Stadium. And I witnessed it myself. As a young boy, I saw Innocent Egbunike win the 100 meters race in 1980 inside the stadium in Ilorin. Kwaspo 80 was what it was called then. The whole secondary schools, they came to compete, you know, in Kwara. I also saw Olapade Adeneke, a student of CNS College, Saboke Ilorin, win the 100 meters race in 1985, right inside the stadium in Ilorin, because I wasn't joking with any time I heard that. I said, old. Yes, I'm in my mid-50s. I'm not too old. I'm not too old.
That's 42 years ago.
I know history. It's not that I'm too old. I can tell stories, things that happened before I was born. That's me. I can tell you about 1966 World Cup. I didn't witness it.
Okay.
So I'm saying, look, in those days, even the rivalry among the athletes, I remember Linda Ebiemokumo and Mario Yali. They had a race in Port Harcourt. And they said there will be a rematch in Ilorin. I left what I was doing to watch the rematch, which was won by Mario Yali. Linda Ebiemokuma won the 100 meters in her home state then of Rivers. But when they came to Ilorin, it was Mario Yali that won. I saw it myself. Nobody told me the story. Adeneken's father was a member of the Athletics Association in Kwara State at that time. Coaches like Coach Harrison Momo, who produced the great Akinremi twins, Omotayo and Omolade, they were living in front of my house, those guests. They also represented Nigeria on this big stage like this, and they won medals. So it makes me happy. In fact, when our 4x100 meters female relay team broke they broke the 30-year-old record set by our Olympic team, Barcelona Olympic team in 1992. That's the Beatrice in Utondu, Faith Hidehen, Mario Yali. That they are Christian Para Thompson. That team, this set, very young girls that we are put together now, very young, probably the youngest ever. They broke that record. But unfortunately, they came fourth behind Germany. I was really, really pained for them that if you can break a 30-year-old African record, you deserve a medal.
As a follow-up to what Jude just said, we had mobile track and field. They had events they used to have every other year that time. But
they no longer do mobile.
That's where you...
The Nigerian system has collapsed, of course. It's not really peculiar to athletics. Don't forget that the Obolaji Johnson Sports Club at Yaba used to be the BI of things that we did to do. Most of Nigerian athletes were trained in that place.
Yes,
Row
Park.
GKB, I want to thank you. Thank you for your contribution.
Always a pleasure.
Dan Bikio, thank you for your contribution. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11. Join us every Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. for Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Zubako. See you tomorrow, and God bless Nigeria.
Looking at the indicators for next year, the macroeconomic environment requires economic liberalization for sustainable private capital growth in 2023. I believe that will be a strategic macroeconomic tool to leapfrog Africa's economy from being import dependent on product